In the life of a Supreme Court justice activity, what you were supposed to do is read through the story, and in each paragraph about the story of John Wallace becoming a member of the Supreme Court, in each paragraph there is one mistake. And you were supposed to highlight, underline, however you wanted to mark it. You were supposed to highlight that mistake, and then in the area between the paragraphs, make any corrections. And so, in the first paragraph, John Wallace awakes to the call where he is told that he was going to become a member of the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, the one mistake in this section was the statement in which Teresa Noble, one of the U.S. senators from Wallace's home state, had said that he was going to be, had nominated him to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the mistake there is that the president is the only person who can nominate someone to the Supreme Court. So it's not a senator, it's not a member of the U.S. House, it's not a member of the Supreme Court. Only the president, him or herself, can nominate someone to the Supreme Court. In the second paragraph, the mistake made is where it says that Wallace would face confirmation hearings in the U.S. Supreme Court, where the sitting judges would have the final say as to whether or not he would become a member of the court. And the mistake there is that there are confirmation hearings, and the president just nominates someone to the Supreme Court. They don't appoint them because there is another party who has a say, but it's not the Supreme Court itself, it's the U.S. Senate. And that's where the confirmation hearings are held, and the U.S. Senate then votes whether to confirm or reject a Supreme Court nominee. And that's one of our checks and balances to make sure that no one branch becomes too powerful. So that's a way that the legislative branch can not only check the power of the executive branch, the president who nominates, but also they can control who becomes members of the judicial branch. So it's a check on that branch also. In the third paragraph, it says how before making a decision, Wallace would have to carefully consider how the president would feel about the legal issue in question, because the president had the power to overrule any decision of the court with which he does not agree. And that is completely false, because only the Supreme Court can overrule the Supreme Court. The president has no say, Congress has no say. Once people are on the court and making decisions, they are the final word. They are the protectors of the Constitution. And so Supreme Court justices, once they're on the court, don't have to worry about political considerations. They just make the decision on their own. In the fourth paragraph, it states that the term of a Supreme Court justice is only 8 years. And we know that's false, because there is no term limit for a member of the Supreme Court. They are on it for life, or until they retire or pass away. And so that one was false. And then the final paragraph talks about how it was sometimes difficult to determine the guilt or innocence of a criminal defendant, and even harder to decide whose side was right in a lawsuit. And that is incorrect, because the Supreme Court is an appeals court, and all appeals courts decide only if a mistake was made in a trial court or a lower appeals court. They do not decide the facts of the case. They do not hear testimony and listen to witnesses, and they don't view evidence. That's not their role. They don't decide guilt or innocence. They don't decide which side wins a civil lawsuit. They simply are there to make decisions on whether or not there was an error of law. And the U.S. Supreme Court has the final say in that. So that was just a little activity to kind of test your knowledge of Supreme Court justices and the Supreme Court in general. And so hopefully that clears up any misconceptions you may have.